Hey everyone, it's me and welcome to my channel. So, do you like salty or spicy or sweet food? I don't know, let me guess. Salty maybe? And if you do like salty food, then how would you feel if your food had no salt in it? And today's case is related to that. The Tuen Mun salt case. And without wasting our time, let's get started. Back in 1999, in the crowded district of Tuen Mun, there lived a young woman named Man. If you had passed by her on the street, you probably wouldn't have looked twice. Neighbors described her as quiet, polite, even gentle. She lived with her partner and their little daughter in a small apartment. From the outside, they looked just like another struggling family trying to survive in Hong Kong. But behind the apartment doors, things were completely different. Yik had met Cheung when she was still extremely young. She was still a minor, a teenager around 15. He was older than her, and according to the later court testimony, their relationship quickly became toxic and controlling. She claimed he abused her for years, physically and emotionally. Some reports also described Chong as someone involved with dangerous people and unstable circles. He reportedly did not have a stable job, and neighbors often heard arguments coming from the apartment. Still, Yik stayed. Maybe because of fear, maybe because of their child, maybe because of after years in a toxic relationship, living no longer feels simple. As time went on, their relationship only became worse. Then one day in February 1999, something happened inside that apartment that would shock all of Hong Kong. According to Yek's testimony, a confrontation broke out between the couple. So she was cooking in the kitchen when Cheung came and tried to touch her. But in panic, she pulled out a knife and killed him. And during the struggle, Yek later claimed it wasn't but a desperate act after years and fear. But what happened after is what made this case infamous. Instead of calling the police, Yik panicked. But there's a thing she did not know that when all of this happened, her daughter, Yik Wing Q, saw all of it. Let's do a little flashback. Yik was a very polite, nice little girl who met Chong and fell in love with him. And when she was still a minor, she was pregnant with her daughter, Vinkyu. When she found out that she was gonna be a mother, she panicked. She was afraid to tell her parents. Then she went to Chong and he drove her to an abortion center, encouraging her to give up the child. But she did not give up the child. And when 9 months had passed, after a bit of pleading, he did come, but after coming, he encouraged her to the child to an orphanage or just but Jake did not do that. It was maternal instincts, let's call it that, and because of that, she did not leave Vinkyu. But there was a problem. She was not able to raise it at her house because her parents did not know that she had a child. So she begged Chung to raise her child at his house. He did agree, but he then contributed to nothing. Jik would go to school, then come to Chung's house and stay there. She would say that she is going to meet a friend of hers. And when she became 18, she moved out of her house, job, and started living with Chung. So physically a lot. She was desperate. She wanted to escape, but was not able to escape from there. There were times she tried, but he had connections, and his friends brought her back. And when she came back, it was even worse. So she stayed in the fear of what he would do to her and her child if she tried to escape. Let's come to the present now. So instead of calling the police, Jake panicked, and over the next few days, she tried to hide what had happened. She dismembered the body and placed the remains inside a large trunk packed with salt, supposedly to slow decomposition and reduce the smell. The apartment stayed silent after that, too silent. Then the smell began. At first, neighbors thought maybe garbage had been left somewhere nearby, or maybe there had been an animal who passed away recently. But as the days passed, the odor became really unbearable, and eventually residents contacted the police. And when officers entered the apartment, they found the trunk. Inside was the horrifying discovery that would soon dominate headlines across Hong Kong. But Yik and her daughter Wing were gone. By the time police identified the victim as Cheung Man, Yik had already disappeared with her daughter. Authorities launched a search, and before long, she was found and arrested in Mongkok. The case exploded across newspapers and television. People were shocked not only by the crime itself but by Yik. Many couldn't believe that the quiet young woman neighbors described as soft spoken was connected to something so disturbing. Others focused more on her claims of long term abuse and began questioning how much suffering had been hidden inside that apartment before everything spiraled out of the control. During the trial, Yik described years of violence, fear, and manipulation. Her defense argued that she had been trapped in an abusive relationship for most of her young life. Prosecutors, however, focused heavily on what she did afterward, hiding her body and trying to avoid being caught. She cut off his arms, hands, and both the legs. In the end, the court did not convict her. Instead, she was found guilty of and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Even after the trial ended, the story refused to disappear. Jik was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and her daughter, Winkyu, she was adopted by a loving family. But after 10 years, when Jik was released from prison, and when her daughter found out about this, she went to her mother. But Jik refused to recognize her, saying, I don't know you. And later, her daughter Wing was arrested because she was involved in a case. That day when Cheung, his friend had come to his house to check what had happened, but instead of Cheung, he saw something else, something very horrifying. And this the cycle of abuse is very toxic, and that's the part of what keeps this case so haunting today. Not just the horrifying discovery inside that apartment, but the questions left behind. Was Yik Man a cold criminal hiding behind a tragic story, or was she someone who finally broke after years of abuse and fear? More than 2 decades later, the Tuen Mun salt case is still remembered as one of Hong Kong's darkest and most debated true crimes. And that's all for today. If you want to know about more or other cases, then please like and subscribe and tell me in the comments that which case should I cover next.